Hello and welcome to Off the Record Live. I am Joe Vito with American Songwriter, and welcome to the internet. We're on Twitch today with Morgxn.
What's up?
What's up? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Before we even dive in, I'm going to remind anyone who's watching right now that this is American Songwriters Twitch. It's a new channel. We just launched up a few weeks ago. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. We're at how many, Michael? 621 subscribers?
Yeah,
621. We're trying to get to 650. There's a bar beneath me. You'll be able to watch it as we go along. Text everyone you know and send it in all of your group chats and tell them to come in and subscribe and watch what's going on live right now because we're with Morgxn. And we're talking about lots of cool stuff. We're going to be talking about Morgxn's background, Morgxn's new music, Morgxn's experience with Nashville, all sorts of exciting things. But first, we're going to do some icebreakers. You ready?
I'm cautiously excited.
All right. You got to have a little element of suspense. That's what makes it exciting. First question, what time do you wake up in the morning, and what's your morning routine?
Wow. I love the mornings. I was just thinking that this morning. I'm reading a book. Okay, here's my morning. I'm pretty sure that it's a 7 a.m. wake up. Usually it's just sunlight wakes me up. And then I have a very strong coffee ritual.
Strong coffee ritual.
Yeah. Actually, literally, it's funny that this is not planned. I did not know these questions, but like I was thinking last night, I don't know who I've become.
Oh, this is gonna get good.
I don't know who I've become, but I can't even believe I'm gonna say this out loud. I I load up the beans that I'm gonna grind like the next morning. I load them up the night before because I only do fresh ground coffee. I load it up the night before, so I walk downstairs and then there it is. I start the coffee process. I grind it fresh right there. I have a specific temperature that I boil the water to. It is kind of, I went to Japan a couple years ago and they have a really sacred coffee ritual. And I think that I just sort of love the idea of infusing my morning with some kind of ritual. So for coffee, I just have a fresh ground coffee, set the water to a specific temperature, do a pour over. It's it's an art to me. And then I usually sit down with my coffee and read a book.
Wow, that is a ritual. I gotta imagine that's gotta be grounding. It kind of gets you connected with the world as you wake up.
Yeah. I also thought about that this morning because I do listen to the news, and some people. I actually have a song on my EP. It's sometimes I want to look away from the news because it's so triggering, but also I have to look at the things that are a little bit difficult. And for me, that watching the news is sort of both a duty as a citizen, but also I tried to look away at the same time. But I absorb it still.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Well, in a wonderful coincidence of timing and spiritual energies, the next question is, how do you take your coffee? You've told us about the ritual, but now I am curious. Do you prefer a light roast, a dark roast? Do you do cream, sugar?
I mean, these questions are nailing something that I've become such a stereotype about. I think if you talk to anyone who tours, they're well, I don't know if they're a sponsor, so I'm not going to name anyone now, but it's I don't just want generic coffee. One of the things about touring that I can't wait to get back to is that sometimes you're in a city for just long enough to get coffee, do sound check, play a show, and then leave, right? So the best way for me to know a city is to find a coffee shop. And I am a purist when it comes to coffee. I take it black. There is nothing that I would add to coffee to make it better. It's become I feel offended when somebody automatically puts stuff in my coffee because I'm no, I want to experience it. But I feel I've become a stereotype of every touring musician I know, because everyone is sort of like, they turn their nose up when someone's like, you know, oat milk, and they're like, oh God.
Are there? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but are there any particular coffee shops that you tried that you were like, oh wow, and it like was like really really cool kind of moment?
Well, I just moved to Nashville, so Nashville has some pretty good coffee, and I went to Crema, and I really like that. You asked light or dark. I thought that dark roast, I mean, like, this is like the most like personal, these are like such intimate questions in the weirdest way.
This is off the record. You can
Okay.
confess to us.
I feel like I'm confessing an absolute obsession that I have had. I didn't get so into coffee until I think the pandemic, you know, this thing. And I was like at home and I started being like, well, I'm not leaving. And I got really into like light roast, dark roast, medium roast, like what it is. And light roast is actually more caffeine, so I tend towards light roasts. I also love the flavor of it, but I just was in Chicago and had a dark roast that I loved, so I got a bag of that. But yeah, I really liked Crema here, and I'm open to finding out other stuff.
So remember that, if you're watching at home and you've got a really good coffee recommendation and Morgxn is coming to your town, you could be the MVP of that day.
It's so true. I actually, like, people have brought coffee to me on tour. I'm remembering, you know, one of the crazy things about this last year is all the things that, I mean, we'll talk about it later, but it's just like all of the things that we lost in this last year. And one of the most beautiful moments that you just reminded me of is like somebody bringing me a bag of coffee like at a tour stop, and it is such a like beautiful exchange.
Absolutely.
So yeah, bring me coffee.
Make it happen. You could be the hero. Texting or calling?
Oh gosh. I want to lie, but like just text me because I can't. Calling is so, I can't. It just moves so quickly. Just text me. I'm a big texter. My question back to you is it texting one long thought or texting individual small bursts of thoughts?
Oh, I'm a burst person all the way.
I'm
if
a burst person.
If I'm texting, it's like I'm sending you like as I would
Stream
say
of
it
consciousness.
verbally.
Like,
yeah.
You go back and you don't go back and change it. It's like, oop, it's already sent.
And so yeah, I gotta
Yeah.
clarify now. Yeah, all
Yeah.
sorts of things. I'll echo your point too that when it comes to calling, I definitely prefer being the caller. But if I'm getting a call, I'm not gonna answer.
Yeah, my voicemail up until yesterday was actually me singing a Smash Mouth song, which is,
Wait, how did it go? Did you?
it was just like you called my phone and it was somebody once told me that, you know, and a lot of people like it kind of became like a thing. Like people would call me and they'd be like, wait, don't answer. I want your voicemail. Which I just noticed yesterday. One of the most old school things about the iPhone is that when you replace your voicemail, it doesn't save previous ones. So like yesterday I changed it and it's now like, that's, you know, I think that was like, I think I had that voicemail for 3 years.
Rest in
I don't
peace,
even
that
know
voicemail.
I don't remember what I did. I did something. Oh, I just heard somebody have a voicemail that was like, hi, you've reached my phone. I'm going to consult my spirit guides on if I'm going to respond, but leave a message. And it was like, okay, cool. Cool.
That's great. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you're a texter.
Yeah,
You use
texter.
emojis. What's your most used emoji?
Oh my God. My most used emoji right now is the sunflower. It's like I'm a sunflower, you know, like I have a thing with yellow, you know, I'm a sunflower.
We just got really close to seeing you put on those glasses.
Not yet.
Not yet,
I'm
y'all.
saving them.
We're building tension.
Yeah, sunflower.
Okay. If you had to describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be?
Oh. Soulful, spiritual, sensual.
All right, we got the alliteration too. A songwriter.
Wow.
Okay, if you could have a totally candid conversation, like you can ask anything and they will answer truthfully with anyone, alive or dead, who would it be?
Wow.
Y'all hear that? I found a good question this time. That was a good one.
I mean, that's a great question. There's so many, like, I don't subscribe to the don't meet your heroes thing, because you should meet your heroes, because if they're bad people, you should know that. I've met a lot of heroes, and they're great people. Well, okay. So I just moved back to Nashville, where I'm from. I'm from here. See it? Close up? Okay. It's funny though, because I have this tattoo, and then when I'm like, I just moved to Nashville, and somebody will clock this tattoo and be like, oh, you just like love Nashville? Like, you're such a fan of Nashville? I know you asked me about having a conversation with someone, but I'm talking about other things.
This is important.
It's important. So I love Nashville, and one of the most special, is that English?
I think so.
Okay. One of the most special things is that I now am in possession of the piano that I grew up on. So it holds a lot of memories for me. Like, I mean, I started piano lessons when I was 9 on that piano. And in the piano, what do they call this? Seat. There's all this sheet music. And there's sheet music from somebody named Luther Vandross that, like, I don't know if that's a generational thing or not, but if you were just hearing about Luther Vandross, go look him up. And I didn't know at the time that I don't know his full personal story or like what is known or not, but he is gay, but was not like, it was not a public sort of thing back then. It was definitely a different time, and I just knew that I loved his version of A House Is Not a Home. It was like one of my favorite songs, which actually Dionne Warwick covered, and also she's queer, and she's the queen of Twitter. Anyways, if I could go back and have a conversation with Luther Vandross about what it was like to be him in the music industry at the time that he was, with his own, like, what he was going through personally in his personal life, I wish I could have that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
But there's like, I mean, that question could be extended to like, I love talking to people about their life. I think that as a songwriter, it's like, you know, one of the ways that songs are born for me are out of being curious about my own life and also like just life in general. And the only way I know how to be curious is to have conversations with people.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. If you could instantly become an expert in anything, what would it be?
Okay. Really good questions that, like,
shout out to like the Ask Men's First Date Questions list that I got this from.
If I could become an expert, at cooking, it would make things more interesting. I can't cook anything. Like, famously, I suck at it. I burn pasta.
You burn pasta?
Yeah,
how
like,
did you do it?
I don't know. I'm getting better. I mean, I'm getting better at it, but it's like, if I could just wave a wand and be like good at cooking, that would be great. I know people would be like, oh, you could just learn it, but like, I don't know. I wish I could just wave a wand and be like,
Be way better than learning it,
Yeah.
for sure. Oh my gosh, wow. So now we're gonna have a few music icebreaker questions and then a few favorites, and then we're gonna dive into the interview. But I'm curious, who is an artist that you are like a big fan of that maybe someone wouldn't guess that you're a fan of?
oh, I'm blanking on his name, but he's there's a countertenor in like Austria or something, who also is like a professional skateboarder. Like he like skateboards and sings like opera. And I am blanking on his name, but that's just someone that like through the internet I've discovered, and I'm like, wow, what a, like, I know nothing about opera and like that world, but like so cool. He's like a modern cool opera singer.
Wow, I know Rent exists, but someone ought to make like La Boheme with like skaters in like the modern era. That'd be fantastic.
Good idea.
What was the first music you ever bought? Whether like a CD or like a record or...
I mean, this is gonna exactly date me in a very specific way.
Oh boy.
But there was a thing called Columbia House that, do you know? This puts me in a generation, specifically elder millennial. Actually, I'm younger than an elder millennial, apparently, but whatever. Columbia House, you paid like I think you paid like $9.99. Someone also just told me you used to have to pay like 10 cents a text. I forgot that, but it is true. You used to have to pay 10 cents a text. Anyways, that's a whole other world. Columbia House, I'm going beet red thinking about this. Columbia House, you paid $9.99 and you got like 13 CDs, and then you could only could listen to it for like a month, and then you had to send them back, and you got to keep one, I think, like something like that. And I just remember that like my haul was like Green Day, OAR, Pearl Jam, Dave Matthews Band, like, you know, probably Backstreet Boys.
Yes.
It was a really eclectic mix. It was definitely like, I think that there's nothing about that list, maybe No Doubt was in there. There's nothing about that list that's actually quintessentially Nashville, but it is definitely a wide spectrum of music, which I think is sort of like, has always been the way I've listened to music. Was like, I wasn't even aware of genre. It's just not how I thought about music. It was just sort of a little bit like, what are people listening to? And like, people were really into Dave Matthews Band in Nashville. Not for some reason, but you know, for some reason. Sorry. But then it was like rock and female belters, and then pop. So that was sort of like a smorgasbord of music that I got.
Wow, an eclectic mix too. That's fantastic. I gotta be honest, the Columbia House does predate me, but that sounds amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like, it does make the listening to albums, it still carries on for me. Like, it's still like, to me, music is about chapters in a person's life. You know, whether or not I get it that music is digested in a different way these days, and I digest music in a different way. Like, I rarely hear an album the minute it comes out. Like, it takes time for me, but I still think of albums as snapshots and chapters, and I would say that is definitely something that is just a generational thing, I guess.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Ooh, we got some audience questions. Thank you for sending them in. Catherine, what are they?
Yes, we've got a few, Joe and Morgan. So I think you both are making your fans hungry, because Lizzie Blizzard wants to know, do you have a favorite restaurant or bar in Nashville?
Well, I want to shout it out because the chef just followed me, Butcher and Bee. And I also went there the other night, and the food was incredible. So I'm going to choose Butcher and Bee. Do you have one?
Right. Oh, gosh. If I had to pick a favorite... Oh, Nashville Biscuit House. East Nashville. They get an omelet. It's like $6.50. Amazing. Really, really good. We were talking before taping about restaurants and kind of how like little hole-in-the-wall places or unassuming places can be so amazing. Nashville Biscuit House, definitely a great example of this. They got like a like a DIY drive-through. It's just like you just like pull up. It's really cool. You got to check it out if you're in Nashville.
I also like need Rex because I literally just moved here.
Nashville Biscuit House. There you
Okay.
go. There's
Cool.
one. So yeah, send your Rex in.
And we got one more.
And we've got another one, another
Yes.
question.
We've got another question, but Lizzie Blizzard agrees that the whipped feta is pretty good.
It is very
from
good.
Butcher and B. So Lovin' My Girl wants to know, what are some of your favorite lyrics off of Meriden Volume 2?
Meridian Volume 2, wow. I think just came into my head right now because I think I'm gonna play it today for the first time. You can feel broken and still be okay is maybe a lyric that I think about a lot right now, because I just think there's a lot of like, it's a tough time, and and there's that saying like both things are true. You can feel broken and still be okay. That's one of them. Yeah, that one. I'm choosing that one because I'm gonna play it today.
You're gonna hear it here, so don't go away. You gotta stay watching, and you gotta text everyone you know and tell them to subscribe. That's beautiful. I'm looking forward to hearing that later. All right, we're gonna ask you some favorites really quick. It's gonna be like a lightning round.
Okay. I won't think about it.
Favorite food on the road.
Indian food.
Favorite drink.
Coffee.
Favorite season.
Fall.
Favorite word.
Blue.
Favorite movie.
The Truman Show.
All right. We were just talking about that before
Yeah,
we
that
started
one,
day 2.
that creeps
Crazy
into
movie. It's still crazy.
it. Still holds up.
Favorite TV show.
Oh my God. Only Murders in the Building right now is really doing it for me.
Yes, I agree.
I'm not gonna say that other show on Netflix that everyone knows. It's just too wild. It's just, that show is still giving me nightmares.
But you know what? Martin Short, he's still doing it.
He's
It's
great. Martin
incredible.
Short, Steve Martin, like what a loving pair. And Selena
Favorite.
Gomez.
Absolutely wonderful. It's an ensemble cast. It's incredible. Favorite book.
Well, I mean, this is the title of the book, so I'm going to say it. I'm reading Larry Kramer's Faggots right now, and it's a wild, wild book.
All right. Favorite color.
Blue.
There we go. This
Yeah.
has been Icebreakers.
I feel broken.
Okay, so we've already talked a bit about how you are from Nashville.
Yeah.
You came up here, you left for a period of time, and you just recently moved back. I want to hear a bit about kind of the origins of who you are as an artist and as a performer. What was your upbringing like in Nashville, especially with it being Music City? Like, when did you get involved in music yourself?
So both of my parents are not in the music industry at all. So my connection in Nashville was not about, like, I do know people who had parents and stuff that like worked on Music Row and stuff like that. I wasn't really even aware that even existed. It was more like I always loved to sing. That was like that if my mother was here, she'd chime in and be like, he loved to sing. And I remember that there was a production of Oliver happening at the local theater here, which is the Tennessee TPAC, which is still here, I think. And
is.
they needed kids to like audition. And so my mom was like, someone maybe told her or whatever, and it's like, my son loves to sing, like, this could be fun or whatever. So we show up at this audition, and weirdly, I remember this too, because I showed up and I was the chubby kid, and I just loved to sing. And I show up and I've got like, I've got like a headshot that's really just a school photo, and I've got a resume that just has clip art on it and says like Morgxn likes to collect snow globes. Like there's no like there's no resume or whatever. I show up and all these kids are like professional. Like they're in dance clothes and they have like all this stuff. And my mom was like, "Do you want to go? Like we don't have to do this." And I was like, "No, like I don't know, this is fun." But she was worried for me because it was like all these professional kids or whatever. And I auditioned, and long story short, it was like I got this play, Oliver, at 9, and doing that, all of the kids were taking voice lessons from the same person. Not me, I knew nothing. But from doing that show, my mom was like, "Let's go and meet this voice teacher." So at 9, I started taking voice lessons. And fun fact, my lesson was right after a guy named Chris Young, who people might know.
Who has been on Off the Record before.
Oh, cool. Well, he definitely, we have the same voice teacher. We both also, I mean, I don't even know, whatever. We both went with my voice teacher and like auditioned for Star Search together. This is a tangent of a memory, but
Give it to us.
I just remember like I used to go show up early to my voice lessons to watch him sing.
Oh, wow.
And just being in awe. But that was like, that voice teacher is really like the reason that I started singing like Stevie Wonder and Luther Vandross and all of these different like people that like I was not hearing at home and was not hearing in the like, you know, Pearl Jam, OAR, Dave Matthews Band, like stuff in Nashville at that time. But it still wasn't like Music Row to me. It was just like, I love to sing. I mean, I'm giving you my whole story here.
I'm loving it.
And then it was like, I went to college and did theater and, you know, was sort of like doing that. That led me to auditioning for a show that was at the time on Broadway called Spring Awakening. And Spring Awakening was a rock musical with music by Duncan Sheik. And
Yes,
it was like,
I Am Barely Breathing.
yeah, I Am Barely Breathing. And it was like, I think I auditioned for the show just around the time that it was already on Broadway, but then it like quickly that year won the Grammy, the Tony, and was just this like crazy show. And I went to an open call and booked this show on Broadway and moved to New York and was on Broadway, and it was an incredible experience. But all the while I had been writing music, but kind of scared to like put that out there and like kind of scared to even share what I had been making because it was, you know, this was a totally different path. There's actually a Bob Dylan part in his autobiography where he talks about he was a singer who sang folk songs, and in his book, he's like, at some point I wanted to peel back the curtain and find out what was there. And that really resonated for me because it was like, it wasn't enough to just sing other people's songs. It was like, I feel like I want to share what I'm trying to say and all of this stuff. And that's really like how I started sharing my music. Like I was playing concerts at the time and just slipped in an original song. And after a while, that just became all that I was playing was my own music.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I want to kind of like move that ahead through your career, and I want to ask about your first record, Vital, that had Home on it, which has obviously been a huge hit song. What was that kind of chapter of your life like, kind of bringing this music together and kind of creating a body work to like put out and be Morgxn and like have that out in the world?
Yeah, Home, I recorded the choir. That had a really interesting creation because I recorded the choir with a few friends in Nashville in a living room because I had the song Home, but at the time I wasn't living here, and I was like, I feel like I can't release a song called Home if I don't have some kind of part of Nashville in the song. So I recorded the choir here, and then a month later, my dad passed away, like suddenly. And that kind of like, it was a really difficult time, to put it lightly. But that song, Home, became like an anchor almost of like, when I went back to working on that song, I was like, this is vital. This is what is vital to me. This is what matters to me. And Home, it just started breaking every record I had ever like seen. You know, it was like I started hearing it everywhere. People were, you know, sending me messages of them hearing it. You know, it was then I played Lollapalooza for the first time, and it was like all of a sudden there were just tons of people there like singing this song that I had written just before my dad passed. It was just a beautiful chapter of my life.
Oh, wow. Yeah, absolutely. That is so beautiful, and it kind of illustrates the power that music can have on so many different levels, too.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I believe that we're going to be going to an ad break shortly, but before we do, I have one more question I'm going to be asking you, which is, talking about Home, this is American songwriter. We love to kind of dig in and talk about songs. I want to ask you a little bit about just kind of like the composition of this song from like a musical perspective even, because something that I think is so cool about this song is that you have that choral hook on it, that melody that's just so catchy and it's there, and then it's kind of paired with that really fantastic bass-led kind of groove thing. I mean, it's just like this really cool arrangement. How did you kind of like come together and put that together? Like, what was your process of like musically writing that tune?
It actually didn't start with the bass line. It started with a different guitar line that so dun 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 dun. That came after. There was a dun 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 dun, and then I sang oh 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 oh, and then I recorded the choir on it, and then went back to the track, and with the producer, he was like, let's take out this guitar part and just see what else we could find, and then added the bass after.
The first time you like heard that together, did you like jaw hit the ground?
I actually really did. The funny thing is that the producer, I recorded the choir here, like, and I've posted, it was like 6 friends in a living room, like the least sexy, worst engineered moment of my musical career. But I stacked it, you know, like all, you know, stacked it many times, made it huge, and then sent it back to the producer in LA. And he thought that I had recorded like a 40-person, like, huge gospel choir. So it made him really excited, and he thought that I had like found this huge choir. And that's kind of what gave him this like energy of like trying to find a different line. Found the bass part, and then when he played it for me, my jaw did hit the floor. I was like, what?
It's so cool. Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Yeah, and that's such a great kind of like, wow. You got
Journey.
him with that recording. Yeah,
Yeah.
it worked. Wow.
We got some viewers.
Oh, we got some viewer questions.
Got a fan shout out. So
All right.
X Sweet GX Music says, glad you have shared your music, feelings, and vibes because you never know who may benefit from it.
Aw, thank you.
And that same fan and viewer wants to know, would you still be in theater if you weren't doing music?
You know, there's so many parts of the journey that I was just shooting in the dark, trying to figure out how to share my heart, really. And theater was like this thing that I had done and led me to New York years ago. But it was really like that Bob Dylan quote. When I read it, it was like, it's not enough for me to just sing a song just because I can sing a song. It's really like, what am I saying? What is the meaning of it? And that for me was lost doing other people's songs. So it's hard for me to even know if I would ever go back to it, because to me it's like it was all a part of me on my own path to just sharing who I am.
All right. Wow. Well, we are going to be going to an ad break now, but we're going to be back shortly with some live music from Morgxn, some more questions, some more conversation. We'll be asking more fan questions, so keep them coming. It doesn't even have to be about music. We could talk about anything, coffee, keep it appropriate. But keep watching, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I'm going to play a couple songs. I'm going to start with my song Wonder, which came out in the middle of this crazy year that we have been in. And it, as an independent artist, streamed 85 million times, and I played it on Jimmy Kimmel with Sara Bareilles last month. And talk about the power of a song. This song is just my heart and soul. Lately I've been so disconnected. My feet don't want to touch the ground. Can't find my way through this dimension when all these voices drown me out. I feel so far from my body. It's hard to find my way back. Everyone tells me I'm crazy. Well, maybe I am. Oh, I wonder if anyone will hear this. I wonder if I'll ever be fearless. I wonder if I'll end up alone. Don't know where I'm going. Oh, I wonder if what I say will matter to someone. If I'll go broke trying to keep on. I wonder. Some days I'm like a fallen feather, floating, I don't know where to land. Why are we looking for an answer if the question's way too hard to understand? Oh, I wonder if anyone will hear this. I wonder if I'll ever be fearless. I wonder if I'll end up alone. Don't know where I'm going. Oh, I wonder if what I say will Hey, thanks. It's nice not to just perform this at home, which has been the last year. Okay, so I think I'm gonna do it. Okay, I'm gonna play a brand new song that's gonna be on my EP that's coming out 11/11, November 11th. I wrote this song in maybe the final hours of 2019 becoming 2020, which I was hopeful for. And that is not how 2020 turned out to be. It was tough. There were days while everyone was becoming an expert at everything, I was just depressed. This song features someone, and I'm not going to tell you who, but this song is called Burden. Too many people in this world try to get something from somebody. They all think that they know what it might take. Too many roads, too many signs, I feel it cross inside my mind. I don't know that I am sure of anything. You can feel broken and still be okay. You can feel hopeful and still need some space. You can feel all this and not know what to say. You see, this burden is not yours to take. I don't need a reason why, but I know when I've been falling, 'cause the air feels so heavy everywhere. I tell myself, yeah, who am I? You cannot cross the finish line. Where the stars meet the sea, I'll be there. If you could only imagine the weight of the world as I carry for so long, I leave it behind as I step into the water. Trust in myself, I had to learn to let it go. You can feel broken and still be okay. You can feel hopeful and still need some space. You can feel all this and not know what to say. You see, this burden is not yours to take. You can feel broken and still be okay. You can feel hopeful and still need some space. You can feel certain and still look away. Sometimes the burden is not yours to take. Thank you. First time.
Hello and welcome back to Off the Record Live. Morgan put on the sunglasses. Look at
It's a
this.
post-show moment.
Yes!
You know, we're just chilling now.
Yeah,
Should have
that's
started
right.
with the music.
Oh my gosh. Welcome to the post-show hour. And by hour, I mean 10 to 15 minutes. So stay tuned. But that was a wonderful performance.
Thank
and
you.
A really good kind of doorway into talking about the new music you have, which is Meridian Volume 2 coming in November. I want to know about kind of the origins of Meridian. And if I'm correct, originally you kind of like thought of the whole project and then split it into 2 parts once you had already kind of started. What was the birth of this project like?
Painful and confusing and disorienting and, you know, what everyone went through in 2020. I thought that the project was wonder. I thought that was the message. And I remember vividly that I had a dream, and in it, like, the word meridian was like plopped into me. And it's a word that I love, but it's not like a common word that I use a lot. But I remember waking up from this dream and being like, well, that's maybe that's like the next project, because I'm feeling like wonder is still going and still happening. And it was like I had friends that were coming in to like remix wonder, but when it ended up happening, in the name Meridian, which is all about how things change and flow, and Meridian has many meanings, but one of them is like in your body are channels and meridians, and it's the direction that energy flows. So thinking about how this year was just such a like chaotic stop-start, Meridian was actually a word that was like, it's actually about how you let things flow. And wonder became its own world. Like, Wonder is actually an album on Spotify, Apple, everywhere, that is Amazon, that is that's 7 versions of the song Wonder, of 7 versions by my friends who created a whole world of wonder. Wonder actually became its own thing, and so Meridian, true to the name, became its own like world of how things break and how things flow and how you let things go. And in that, I was like, I want to release it in 2 parts, partly because I felt like the first half, Meridian Volume 1, was a lot about like how things break, and a lot of Volume 2 was like how things kind of, how you sit in the unknown and how you sit in that space, but also kind of because I understand that even I listen to music in a way that's like I'm digesting it when I discover it. So Volume 1 happened, and then that's when I got this email from Sara Bareilles and like ended up doing a version of Wonder with her, and that couldn't have happened if I was sort of like in the middle of this like process, but it was kind of, you know, perfect.
Wow, oh my gosh. Well, I want to ask you about hearing you just talk about your story on every level of the story, even talking about home with your father passing, and there's all of these moments and kind of scenarios and scenes where the power of music seems like it's been just such a dominating force and spirit in your life, especially working on this record during the pandemic. I mean, do you feel like you were able to ground yourself, learn about yourself, even like grow as a result of like exploring all these ideas and thinking about these things?
1,000,000%. I mean, it is wild that this record ended up bringing me home in the process, that like through it, it changed my whole life. It kind of centered me in like, I've never created a home ever, you know, like I've never really thought about like what it means to come home to myself. Even though I've been singing about home for years, I feel like it was Meridian, everything falling apart and everything being tough about this year, both personally but also collectively and globally, that through these songs, they almost didn't let me give up, even when, especially when I wanted to. You know, when the burden was too much to take. You know, when there's a song on Meridian Volume 2 called Citadel, and there's a line in it that's, that's another favorite line if I were to be asked the question right now, is you are not in survival mode anymore. And to be honest, I felt in survival mode for most of 2020. And now it's like we're starting to reopen, not just physically, but spiritually reopen, and we're starting to gather and play shows and be together. And I feel like this record is leading me out of this crazy time that we've been in.
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. That's so beautiful, and again, such a powerful kind of thing. Well, I want to ask about one song specifically on the record, which is Don't Think About It, which has the really amazing music video that's out. And if you at home haven't seen the music video yet, watch it after this stream is over. But definitely check it out. I love this song, especially in thinking about like even music is like activism. I think that this song is a really fantastic example of even just watching the music video. It can kind of get you to think about something that is like, you know, depending on how deep you want to dig into it, a pretty grand kind of like political and personal kind of topic, but it presents it in such a like a fantastic way for thinking about it and for kind of contextualizing it, which is arguably some of the best things that art can do. What can you tell us about this tune and kind of your perspective on that?
You know, growing up in Nashville, like, first of all, I didn't dye my hair, I didn't have an earring, I didn't wear these glasses. I wouldn't have even worn this color because I was already made fun of enough. Like, the whole thing was like, how much can I hide? And now it's like, how much can I just be myself? And I don't want to hide. I'm not trying to hide at all. There's a line in Don't Think About It that's, don't tie a string around my neck to keep me grounded. I got my head up in the clouds. I think I found it. And I feel like society and this industry will give you every reason to tell you who you are. But I am so like not interested in that. And in fact, you know, I'll never forget that 10 years ago, I came to Nashville before I lived here, but long after I had left, and this is a whole other interview in itself, but a manager set me down and was like, let me tell you one thing, you will never make it as a gay man, openly gay man in music in Nashville. And I think that 10 years ago was a different time, and that was exactly the truth, you know? And it's still a town that's shifting, but I love to be on the side of what is shifting. I'm not the only person out there, but I'm a part of a new beginning to an old town that, you know, like, it doesn't have to be that way. These binaries that we've grown up in, it is time for them to be like busted wide open. So with Don't Think About It, if you haven't watched it, watch it, but there is a cake in it, and it's for a gender reveal party. And in that gender reveal party, they slice the cake. To their dismay, they find out that the cake is actually just a rainbow. And I think it's a small, cute thing, but is sort of a indicative of it's time to bust those binaries wide open.
Yes, absolutely. And there's an amazing moment where it like zooms in on the couple and they're like, who would do this? And then it hard cuts to Morgxn in a kitchen cooking.
And if we're paying attention and we go back to how I can't cook, it's like comical how like I'm actually terrible in the video, and it's a part of it. But like I have like many chef friends who I like was like they were just like watching you in a chef costume like cooking something was like the most hilarious thing, because like literally actually how I'm doing in the kitchen in this video is how I am in the kitchen. It's just like, no, the egg goes in the bowl, like not like on the floor, you know. But
there you go. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, it is such a powerful and really kind of amazing song, and it seems to kind of represent the rest of your body of work in that regard. And so that's such a great thing. I've got just one last question for you today.
Okay.
And it's kind of a wrap-up question, but you do have the second half of Meridian coming up. You got a tour that's kicking off in November as well.
Yeah.
How do you feel? What's the future look like for you?
Feels like gathering. Feels like being together. I'm really excited for this music to, like, it was such a gift to be able to play Burden for the first time today, because I feel like I'm just sort of like sitting on these, like, excited to finally share this thing that I've been working on. And then I hit the road with my friend Small Pools, and we'll be, if we're not there in November, we're there in February. We're hitting every part of the U.S. November and February. We're playing Nashville November 18th, Exit In. And yeah, I can't wait to, like, actually get to sing these songs with people.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, it has been such an absolute delight speaking with you today. I'm going to do a quick check on chat to see if we've got anything. It looks like you're just getting lots of love from Love My Girl sending you purple hearts. We got Kat Walthall sending you purple hearts. We got just lots of love.
Everybody excited for your tour?
Oh, yeah.
I'm
People
excited.
are ready to dance.
I can't wait.
Yeah, there we go.
Dance and cry. There'll be a lot of crying.
Well, Morgxn, thank you so much
Thank
for stopping
you.
by and speaking
Great
with
questions.
us. Thank you, Neon Media, American Songwriter, and Twitch for being our hosts, both in brick and mortar and in the internet. Thank you all for joining and watching this today and seeing Burden be played for the first time, watching this conversation. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Please tell everyone you know to subscribe. I hope you enjoyed your time on the internet. Thank you. I'm Joe Vito. Good night.
Bye.